Lies and hypocrisy in gaming seems to be the trend nowadays, specifically with Genshin Impact and the Assassin's Creed controversy that has been occurring in the industry, showing and revealing the journalists and the game developers for all the lies that make up the industry and its current state of affairs, where it's constantly trying to appease this mythical minority of gamers that have problems with racial and gender issues within the games being produced. And I don't know if there's any better example than the current controversies that are occurring right now, showing the dichotomy of what is approved and what is disapproved within the gaming industry when both games are doing the same thing. And I think that's the situation we're seeing with Genshin Impact and Assassin's Creed Shadows, where there are completely different reactions within the game industry to these two games that are essentially doing something similar in different ways. If you know the controversy around Assassin's Creed Shadows, they're basing the game on a fictional samurai by a real person, Yasuke, who actually existed in Japan for a year, but based on lies of an author who made a book based on the fictional story of a samurai known as Yasuke. Now we have this rewriting of history around this character, where people are going into Wikipedia trying to change history to appease a video game's narrative structure of what this character is in history. And I think this is the big difference between Genshin Impact and Assassin's Creed Shadows. Assassin's Creed Shadows is trying to rewrite history to appease its narrative structure and to readdress what they perceive as racial and gender biases within Japanese culture and society. This is a game that is extremely toxic and poisonous in what it's trying to do to an entire culture of people, where it's trying to rewrite history to make its own narrative for Japan. And I think that is a crazy thing to see from a gaming company that is only supposed to be entertainment for people that want to play games. But that's not what we're getting from Ubisoft, and I think that's where that controversy stems from. And of course, if you know the Genshin Impact controversy, it's more based on colorism, where a new set of characters are introduced in Natlan that have darker skin and have African related names, but they don't really look African at all. And people are coming out with their complaints with this game, saying there's not enough diversity of color within the game. This game is coming from a Chinese company that is producing this game, and I think, yeah, you could say that, but there's not really representation of Chinese people in this game. This is a game that's based in fantasy. It's not trying to rewrite history or anything like that. It's making fantastical looking characters that just don't exist in reality, in a world that isn't reality at all. So the comparison breaks away from that standpoint of colorism, where people are discussing the different shades of colors for these characters, complaining that there's a lack of diversity. But you just look at the game, it's not trying to be a realistic game. It's not trying to rewrite history. It's not trying to do things that we're seeing with Assassin's Creed. And this is the crux of the situation, the controversy around this game, Genshin Impact and Assassin's Creed Shadows, where one is trying to change history and trying to change it boldly while calling everyone a racist and bigot who opposes their change in history. And I think that is the backlash that we're seeing with Assassin's Creed Shadows, is people going, wait, this is not what we want to see. This is not history. You're trying to tell us that we're evil for questioning you. And I think that is the backlash that is sustaining the dislike towards Assassin's Creed Shadows and Ubisoft's take on the situation. And I think even more so, you have the author that they're basing all this information from, Thomas Lockley, who admitted that his take on Yasuke the samurai is fiction. He put it out there in multiple interviews where, yeah, this is just based on my idea of what is possible. It's not based on any true text or anything like that. So we have the author of most of the text that is being used as source material stating that this man that doesn't speak Japanese, that came over with Jesuit priests, became a samurai, something that you're supposed to be trained in for decades, but a person that just came with a bunch of Jesuit priests, became a samurai, doesn't speak Japanese, and he was just bashing Japanese people's brains in as a samurai. And I think that is the absurdity of what people want us to believe in. And I think that is the essential thing, where we're getting people trying to have us not believe what our eyes and logic obviously tells us, where this is an impossibility. This guy was most likely just a sword bearer, which is fine and well, and you can make a fiction that he was a samurai, but don't try to rewrite history and call everyone a racist liar for questioning your obvious lies. And I think that's the situation we're having developing here, where people are questioning Thomas Lockley and bringing up his old interviews where he is stating this is fiction, and now we're getting that idea that this is completely fiction from the source material that is being based on this game. And of course, there's even information that he worked on Ubisoft's game Assassin's Creed Shadows. Even after denying it, there's information from an interview stating that he worked on the game. It's showing this interconnected web of lies and hypocrisy that is shadowing over Assassin's Creed Shadows, and that's simply not happening with Genshin Impact, because the Chinese developers don't care what you think. They're just making a game. It seems like they don't care what even the paying customer thinks. They're making a game for profit, money. They don't have any sort of representation for anyone in this game, not even for Chinese people. This is just random fictional characters that look appealing and attractive, that's supposed to hold retention of the game players and their interest for a long period of time. This is pure business and profit seeking right here, and I find that respectable. They're making the most profitable game possible, and that is Genshin Impact for them. And the people complaining, you're not going to get any changes, because what they're looking for is money. And if you don't have the money, you're not going to get the changes. If you bring enough people that are going to bring billions of dollars to Genshin Impact, if they make darker skinned characters, they will do that. But they're based in China, targeting a Chinese fan base that don't care about seeing darker skinned characters. That is just the bold-faced truth of the situation. The conventional forms of beauty in China are mostly pale skin, so it's just not going to change. And the people complaining about it are using their modern-day American mindset, where they think they can bully these companies into doing something completely unprofitable until they're bankrupt, and that is just not going to work on the Genshin Impact developers. No matter what voice actor complains, they'll just be fired and replaced with AI. Same thing we saw with other Chinese developers like Snowbreak, where the people complaining about diversity and racial with gender issues, they just fired the whole staff. And I think the voice actors they're coming out protesting, they're sorely misinterpreting the Chinese developer space, where they're not going to stand for these sort of things. And this is the opposite result that we're going to see with Assassin's Creed Shadows, because they're backed by this hypocritical system with games journalists and consultancy firms supporting their ways of thinking. And you can see this with the difference of approach with their news articles, where they're saying everyone that is against Assassin's Creed Shadows is racist, and they're doing the opposite with Genshin Impact, saying everyone that is developing Genshin Impact is racist for not having more diversity of color. And I think this is the hypocrisy that we're seeing play out within the media, where these media acolytes are supporting each other in their racial diverse causes, their racial gender causes. And we see that constantly with other video games that are put out there. We see this hypocrisy bear out with Hades 2, where it culturally appropriates Greek culture, adding darker shades of characters when that is not the historical fact, but they praise this while criticizing Genshin Impact for doing something similar. And I think that is the clearest fact of hypocrisy that we're seeing within the gaming world. And I think that is the thing that I find frustrating with the gaming journalist sphere, where they're always backing their own ideology while criticizing people that are doing the same thing that they praised just 1 week ago. And that is the basis of the video gaming industry. It's laid on the foundation of lies and hypocrisy. And I think Genshin Impact and the situation with Assassin's Creed Shadows is showing that issue rise to the surface. And I think that's what we're seeing with some of the fan edits of Genshin Impact characters. This is approved content when it comes to other individuals that are not minorities, and it's disapproved content when it is happening to minorities. And I think that's the situation that we're seeing within the gaming industry, where people are lauding Assassin's Creed Shadows for its take and criticizing Genshin Impact for doing much more similar things than I would say other people would like to admit. But you leave your comments, tell me what you think about the situation. I'd like to hear about the hypocrisy and lies of Ubisoft when it comes to Assassin's Creed Shadows, and the gaming journalists' own hypocrisy when it comes to Genshin Impact, and Hades 2 with Assassin's Creed Shadows. They treat these two games differently from the Chinese developer game Genshin Impact, and I think that is just showing who is politically aligned with what organization. But you leave your comments, tell me what you think about the video gaming industry, its hypocrisy and its lies. I'd like to hear your comments. Like, comment, share, subscribe. This is Wagner Knows Why. Catch you next time.